Today is also a very, very special day because today is the appearance or the anniversary, the birthday, what we'd call in the Western world, of one of the great teachers known as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Once there was a group of sages and they were asking each other the question, who is the greatest? So one of the sages, he put his hand up and he said, the sky is the greatest. What can be greater than the sky? The sky is like everywhere you look, the sky is there. Then one sage put his hand up and he said, you're wrong. It's the clouds, because the clouds can cover the sky. I said, oh, that's smart. Okay, maybe you're right. And then one other sage put his hand up and he said, no, you're wrong. The wind, because the wind can move the clouds. I said, all right, that's a good one. And then another sage put his hand up and he said, no, it's not the wind. It's the mountain, because the mountain can stop the wind. And then another sage put his hand up and he said, no, you're wrong. It's the earth. Because the earth is holding the mountain up. And then one other sage put his hand up and he said, you're all wrong. It's God. Because God is holding the earth up. And you know what happened? God appeared and he put his hand up and he said, you're all wrong. It's my devotee. Because my devotee has imprisoned me within his heart. It's actually said in ancient spiritual teachings that the devotee, the one who has devoted their life to the divine, to the supreme, they are actually greater than God. How is that possible? Can anyone be greater than God? But it's said that the devotee of God is actually greater than God because their love has captured God. Krishna, he's captured by the love of his devotee. Have you seen someone can be a powerful person in the world, but when they go home and their little daughter or their little son says something and smiles at them, they are powerless. They have to do what they say. Because that's the power of love. Love conquers everything. So one who has love, one who has divine love, one who has love for God, they are actually said to be greater than even God himself. And over the ages there have been amazing personalities in all religious traditions who have had amazing love for God. Can you tell me any names of anyone who you feel had amazing love for God in any tradition? Can you name me any names? Say hi. Shabari, yes, from the ancient Ramayana, she had such love. Yes. Prahlad, yes, a great devotee, always remembering God. Prahladesh Smarane, always in remembrance, no matter what the difficulty, always in remembrance of the divine. Yes, at the back. Mirabai, yes, she was always singing. She took Krishna, he is my consort. One time Mirabai, she came to Vrindavan and she wanted to meet the great saint Jiva Goswami. Have you heard Jiva Goswami? He is a great saint, sadhu, Babaji, sannyasi, tyagi. And so she said, I want to see him. And then he sent a message back saying, no, I am sannyasi. We don't see women. And then she sent a message back and she said, no, you don't understand. All of us are female. Krishna is the only enjoyer. Jiva Goswami said, you win. Yes, she was a great saintly person, singing, traveling, giving her life to Krishna, isn't it? So many people had love for Krishna. Do you have some love for Krishna? Some love? Little bit of love? Did you wish you had more love for Krishna? Yeah, we are impoverished in love. One of our great saints, he says, Prema dhana vina vyartha daridra jivan dasa kori vetan more deha prema dhan. You want to know who's poor? Is it the person who doesn't have a second house? Is it the person who doesn't have money in the bank? Who's poor? The one who doesn't have a powerful position in the corporate ladder? Prema dhana vina vyartha. If you don't have the wealth of love, daridra jivan, you should be considered a very poor soul. So one who has love, they are very, very wealthy. And so over the ages, many great souls have come. And because they've captured Krishna, they've captured God by their love, they're able to give Krishna to us. One of our great saints, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he sings, Krishna se tomar, Krishna dite paro, tomara shakati aache. Krishna se tomar, Krishna is yours. Krishna dite paro, therefore you give Krishna to me. Tomara shakati aache, you have that power. You have the power. Can you give what you don't have? Can you? You can't give what you don't have. But if someone has purchased God by their love, then they can come to this world and then they can give that to someone else. Therefore, many, many great saints have come. Srila Prabhupada came, isn't it? He came at the age of 69. All alone. No money, no contacts, no strategy, no help. But he came with great love. Love for Krishna. And therefore, when he spoke, when he sang, people just didn't hear his voice. They didn't just hear his words, but they heard his love. And therefore they became attracted. So Srila Prabhupada, he attracted the whole world. And why did he come to the West? Why did he take on that journey to try to give Krishna to everyone? Because his spiritual teacher, Bhaktisiddhanta, told him to. Because his teacher Bhaktisiddhanta had that love. Because his teacher Bhaktisiddhanta in 1922, when he was lecturing in a Calcutta house on the rooftop, Srila Prabhupada, who was Abhay at that time, came up to that rooftop. He didn't actually want to come because he said, I've seen so many holy men. I've seen so many gurus, so many swamis. I don't know if I have so much faith in them anymore. They say one thing, they do another thing. Isn't it? They used to have a program years ago, Guru Busters. You know, like you have Ghostbusters, Guru Busters, like figuring out all these fake gurus. So he was not so inclined, but his friend said, no, come and see this person. He's different. He has love. He's a sadhu. He's a saintly person. And so Abhay, Srila Prabhupada, walked up to that rooftop. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was lecturing. Bhaktisiddhanta was tall, he was thin, he had glasses, he looked like a scholar. Later on, Srila Prabhupada said he was a Vaikuntha man. You know, some people, you look at them and you think, this person just dropped out from the spiritual world. Who is this person? So when Abhay got to the rooftop, Bhaktisiddhanta was lecturing. And as is customary, when you meet a saintly person, you bow down. That's respect. So he bowed down, Abhay. And before he even got up, before he could even say Hare Krishna or hello or whatever he was going to say, as soon as he got up from bowing down, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur looked at him and said, you're young, you're intelligent. Why don't you spread Krishna consciousness all over the world? And so he got that instruction. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you can say he didn't even know him. He had never even met him. But that's from the material point of view. From the spiritual point of view, they had an eternal relationship. And Srila Prabhupada was coming to meet his spiritual master who told him his life's mission. So this became Srila Prabhupada's life mission. He traveled from place to place, sharing spirituality, sharing Krishna consciousness. Once he came to America and there was an Indian reporter at the airport. So as Srila Prabhupada arrived, there was a press conference and the Indian reporter put his hand up and he said, "Swamiji, why have you come to America?" I mean, he was an Indian himself. So Prabhupada looked at him and said, "Why have you come to America?" The Indian reporter was a little taken back. He said, "I come to America for better opportunities." Prabhupada said, "Me too." But you came for better opportunities to take. You came for better opportunities to earn. You came for better opportunities for your own success. But I've come for better opportunities to give, to serve, to share, to uplift, and to gift this love to everyone. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was a powerful person. He had such conviction. His words carried so much weight. You see, the first thing if you want to convince someone is you have to live it yourself, isn't it? One time one lady, she came to Gandhi and she said, "Can you tell my son to stop eating so many sweets?" He said, "Come back after 2 weeks." So after 2 weeks she came back. She said, "Can you tell him now?" He looked at the son and said, "Stop eating too many sweets." His son listened. Then she came back. She said, "Why didn't you tell him 2 weeks ago?" He said, 2 weeks ago I was eating too many sweets." Because you can't preach what you don't practice. If you don't have that kind of character, then people will not listen to you. Actions speak louder than words. Sometimes they say your character is speaking so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was someone of spotless character. He was living what he was teaching. Do you know what he did at a very, very young age? He decided that there's nothing for me to do in this world except share the knowledge of spirituality with people. Share these teachings so that people understand what is the actual goal of life. And therefore, he decided that in his whole life, this is what he would dedicate himself to. And at a very young age, he decided, before I go around and tell everyone about this spirituality, about the holy name of Krishna, I'm going to chant 1 billion names of Krishna myself. Yeah, just in case you thought 1 round was difficult. 1 billion names of Krishna. And you know how long that took him? He was chanting 192 rounds every single day for 11 years. Don't try this at home. These are exceptional people. These are exceptional personalities who have exceptional amount of absorption. Here we are, we sit down to chant the mantra, but within a few moments, within a few minutes, if we're a little bit more accomplished, within 10 minutes, our mind is again going everywhere. Do not disturb, already disturbed. Mind is so disturbed. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had that ability to just stay and absorb himself. And because he absorbed himself in the holy name of Krishna, he became empowered. Shall I share you a secret about spiritual life? All your strength, all your knowledge, all of your tolerance, all of your compassion, do you know where it's coming from? Your connection with the holy name of Krishna. If you can stay with the transcendental vibration of Krishna's names and absorb your heart and mind in that vibration, you will become empowered. You will become endowed with so many gifts in your character. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, before I do anything, let me first become completely empowered by the holy name of Krishna. And therefore we tell everyone, the first thing you do in the morning when you wake up is look at the news. No. The first thing you do in the morning when you wake up is you take shelter of the transcendental vibration. Life cannot begin without that, because all your strength, all your ability to deal with the day, to deal with the material world that faces you when you leave the door of your house, all of the ability to do that is coming from your spiritual meditation. And so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur taught us this. And after 11 years and chanting 1 billion names, then he said, I will go out and I will now share this. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur became the most innovative person in sharing spirituality in a relevant and mass scale. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did controversial things. He made adjustments, he made innovations, he found newer and more dynamic ways to reach people and show them the path of spirituality, the path of Krishna consciousness. He printed books. In those days, books were printed by like a press. You understand? It was very, very noisy. And one time the deities were there, and right next to the deities he installed a printing press. And when he would install the printing press that was printing the Shastra, the scriptures, he would run the press all night, even when the deities were sleeping. So someone criticized him and said, how can you run this noisy press while the deities are while Krishna is sleeping? It's disturbing. He said the sound of the printing press, which is producing this knowledge and wisdom which will uplift humanity, the sound of this printing press is just like a sweet kirtan. It's just a sweet sound. And so he was criticized. People didn't understand. He would go into places, big forums, dressed in a suit, and address the people and bring spirituality there. He was doing all kinds of things, because the highest principle was whatever we can use and whatever we can utilize for sharing spirituality in the world must be used. Another thing that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did is he spoke out against those who had deviated from real spiritual principles. One of the most difficult things in the world today is that religion, over time, it just becomes corrupted, isn't it? Therefore, now one of the biggest things in the world is SBNR. You know what SBNR is? You don't know? I'm spiritual, but not religious. I don't like religion. I don't like institutions. I don't like organizations. One person once said to me on the street, I don't like organized religion. I said, you'll love us. We're completely disorganized. But generally people don't like organized religion because it becomes about power, it becomes about position, it becomes about prestige, popularity, and the purity of the actual thing is actually lost. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he would come in and he would expose people who were professing to be religious but were not actually imbibing the true essence of spirituality. People who were saying, I am a Brahmin. In the Indian system of societal organization, the Brahmins are the teachers. But you don't become a Brahmin just by being born in a Brahmin family. You become a Brahmin because you have knowledge, because you have wisdom, because you're able to actually help people. So he spoke out against the people who were saying, no, I am a Brahmin because I was born in a Brahmin's family. No, that doesn't make you a Brahmin. If tomorrow you're sick and you go to the hospital and someone says, I'll operate on you, I'm the son of a doctor. Well, it's great that you're the son of a doctor, but it doesn't fill me with confidence that you're going to do the right operation to make me better. Because what's your qualification? And so he spoke out against casteism. He spoke out against impersonalism. People who say that, God, Krishna, this is ultimately all just an illusion. We're all God. Everyone's God. Once I was walking down the street and someone had a t-shirt. And on the front it said, I used to be an atheist. ... I thought, wow, there's hope here. And then he walked past me and on the back it then said, and then I realized, I am God. Oh no, first you used to be an atheist, now you think you are God? Impersonalism. Aham Brahmasmi, they say, the impersonalists. You are God, I am God. Right now we are here, we are just in illusion, but ultimately we're all God. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, no, we are servants of God. We exist in relationship of love with God. We exchange with God. And like this, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was also a protector of the spirituality because he exposed all the deviations. So like this, we honor these great saints who came to the world because they created a path by which we can also go back and access the spiritual reality. Hare Krishna. Would anyone like to ask any questions or make any comments or ask anything about anything I've said this evening? Anyone? Otherwise we can do some more singing. No? Yes?
I'm kind of speaking for myself here, but how would you advise someone who is kind of up and down with chanting?
How would we advise someone who's up and down with chanting? Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is that sometimes we have a romantic idea of meditation or chanting. We think like, oh, I will chant, then I will close my eyes, then I'll be connected with Krishna. Soon I'll be floating in the spiritual world. I'll forget about all of my worries. And it doesn't always work like that. The first thing we have to understand is that meditation is a discipline. Meditation requires patience, persistence. In anything you wanted to achieve in life, you had to be patient, you had to be persistent, you had to be determined. And so meditation, chanting is the same. The experience of chanting, the sweetness of chanting is not a cheap thing. That comes from a daily commitment. a daily discipline. Just like any relationship in this world, because daily you keep committing back to that person, therefore the relationship becomes very, very deep. So in chanting, we need to understand that it's not so much about how I feel. I don't feel like chanting. Yeah, there will be days like that. Just like some days you don't feel like seeing your husband or wife, maybe. It may happen. Or some days you don't feel like seeing, but no, you commit and you serve and you make that sacrifice. And then there's love. That's love. So the first thing I would say to someone who says, I'm up and down in my chanting, I can't do it, that up and down in the chanting is a great opportunity to show your commitment. Because on the days that you don't want to, but the days that you do it because of commitment, those are the days when you show a deeper level of commitment to the holy name, which then means the holy name will reciprocate with you and show more. And then the other thing I would say is, one of the reasons why we're up and down in our chanting is because we don't have attraction for chanting. And the reason we don't have attraction for chanting is because we don't chant with attention. Attention, along with the Maha Mantra, try to remember this mantra. Attention brings attraction, and attraction eventually brings attachment. Attention, attraction, attachment. But if we chant in a half-hearted way, if we chant lackadaisically, if we chant multitasking, if we chant, sometimes I've seen two devotees talk and they both have their hand on their beads. One of them is talking and the other one is chanting their rounds. And when it comes to their turn to speak, the other one chants their rounds. You think like, wow, this is powerful, I mean, you can have a conversation and do your chanting. Wow, amazing. Well, I don't know how much attraction you're going to develop if you do it like that. Chanting while you're driving. No, but I've got a Tesla now. And in a Tesla, you can do driverless, isn't it? It's automatic now. I don't know if still it will be the most attentive chanting if you chant while you're driving. Chanting while cooking. I don't know. So we have to give it attention. You have to give it the best time of day. You have to give it quality. Then we have to realize the holy name is a person. So if you treat someone without attention, have you ever tried to have a conversation with someone who's just completely inattentive? I mean, you kind of lose interest very quickly. So we're a little bit like that, absent-minded. So yes, please give attention. Let us all try to do that. Give the best part of your day and give the best effort. And even when you do, the mind will still wander. Don't worry. Remember, it's a discipline. Keep bringing it back. Yato yato nischalati manaschanchalamasstiram tatastato niyam yetad atmanyeva vasamnayet. Krishna says to Arjuna, from wherever the mind wanders due to its unsteady and flickering nature, keep bringing it back. Keep bringing it back. So try again. Thanks.
Yeah, I was just wondering also about, because we're all in this ISKCON, and often we can get, how you were saying, it becomes like about the external, we can get lost in the religious aspect.
Yeah, the institution. Yeah.
So how do we remain, because the institution, like we live in the temple, it's good for us to have a temple. It's good for us to have the institution so we can come to the temple. But how do we remain focused on the on the main principle of Bhakti Yoga, like without getting lost in all these distractions, like can be pride or position,
How do we stay focused on the essence of what we're here for? Because it's very easy to get sidetracked in the externals of an organization, isn't it? Therefore, reading is really, really important. When we read, when we connect with this wisdom, then what's happening is we're realizing, why did I join this thing in the first place? Where am I actually trying to go? What is success? What is my goal? Every time we read the books, then it's like reorientating your vision and remembering the goal. Because sometimes we can forget the goal. One time there were two people on the side of the street, they both had spades. So one of them was digging up, making a hole, and the other fellow was taking the same dirt and put it back in. So this guy was like looking at it, he was baffled. He came back 1 hour later, they were doing the same thing. So he goes up to them and he says, what are you guys doing? Like, one of you's digging this up and the other one's putting it in with a spade. They said, we're doing our job. We said, what kind of job is this? They said, we're planting trees. He said, but one of you are just digging it up, the other one's putting it in. He said, yeah, the third guy who puts the seed in, he's off sick today. But we got to carry on with our job. We've got to carry on with our job. Business as usual. The show must go on. But my friend, it's useless. Because you forgot to put the seed in. So we got to bring the presence back. We got to remember, why am I here? Otherwise, they say in English, you lost the plot. You lost the plot, my friend. So don't lose the plot. Remember the plot. And how do you remember the plot? You have to read the Shastra. Because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamupetya punarjanma dukhalayam shashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhi paramam gata. You got to get there, paramam gata. You got to get there to transcendence. Because if you don't get there to transcendence, where are you going to be stuck? Dukhalayam shashvatam. You're going to be stuck in the place full of misery and full of transience. Is that where you want to stay? Is that where you want to stay, where everything ultimately breaks down, where everything ultimately fails, where ultimately everything is a frustration? That's the material world. No, Krishna says, Paramam Gata, transcend yourself beyond this, attain, and then you'll find the sacred space. So like this, we have to remind ourselves. Everyone needs to be reminded, because we forget and we get drawn into unnecessary, irrelevant, unimportant things. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Yes.
You know the example you took of the guy walking with the t-shirt saying,
I am God, yeah.
And then at the back, I'm God. For me, he's not fully wrong, because we are all part and parcel of God. And our main objective in life is to go back to the Paramatma. We are part and parcel of God. So
yes. And you hit the nail on the head. Part and parcel. Part means we're the same quality as God. God is Satchit Ananda, full of eternity, full of knowledge, full of bliss, and so are we. So we're part, but we're also parcel. Parcel means complete in ourself. In other words, an individual unit is a parcel. And therefore we're not God in the sense that we always eternally have our own identity. Therefore Krishna says to Arjuna, Natvevaham jatunasham natvam ne me janadipa nacheva na bhavishyama sarvivaya mataparam. Krishna, he looks at the battlefield and Krishna says, never was there a time when all of these kings didn't exist, and never will they ever cease to exist. Everyone is always existing. So we are not God in the sense that we never merge with God. We always have a relationship with God. So, you see, we are here and God is here. So you know what atheists do? They pull God down. And they say, no, there's no God, there's nothing, everyone's down. Pull everyone down, and they remove the distinction. But impersonalists, what they do is they say, there's God, we're here, but they bring everyone up. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, impersonalism is basically covered atheism. Because whether you say we're equal here, or you say we're equal here, it amounts to the same thing. That you're removing the distinction between you and God. And the moment you remove the distinction between you and God, you remove the opportunity of relationship. And when you remove the opportunity of relationship, you lose the opportunity of love. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, to try to become God is spiritual suicide. It was a heavy language. So yes, we are the same quality as God, but we're different in quantity and we're eternally separate. Thank you for clarifying. Yes?
So, thank you, Maharaj. Like in the material world, right, whatever we do as an office job or any work, right, we have performance evaluation, right, yearly or quarterly, like how much progress we are doing.
Yes.
How we are doing the work. But what about in bhakti, right? So suppose we are chanting daily, we are doing our prayer and everything. So do we need to do the performance evaluation, like how we are going inwards or downwards, or just love Krishna, right, from pure heart? So how we can do this thing?
Do you need to see whether you're progressing in spiritual life, or do you just kind of go on and hope it happens?
Correct.
Clearly, there are many people who may practice spiritual life, but they may not be advancing. They may be doing it wrong. They may be in the institution of ISKCON and doing all the things, but forgetting to put the seed in. So therefore, there must be a way to check whether we're actually going in the right direction or not. Therefore, what Krishna does in the scriptures is he gives many, many measures by which you can understand whether you are advancing in spiritual life or not. And all you have to do is sit down and look deep within your heart and ask yourself, am I changing? The first thing that Krishna says is a sign that you're spiritually advancing is that gradually your desires change. All of the things that previously were so interesting and so attractive to you, they begin to become very insignificant. If that's happening to you, give yourself a point. Another thing that happens as you're spiritually advancing is your character should improve. The pride should turn into humility. The ego should turn into appreciation. The anger should turn into tolerance. The lust should turn into love. In other words, your character starts to change. If you've been practicing Krishna consciousness for 20 years, 10 years, even 5 years, even 1 year, but you can't see a change in your character, that's not a good sign. We should be changing. So if your character is changing, give yourself a point. Another thing that should be changing as you advance in Krishna consciousness is you should have more taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna. If after 10, 15, 20 years you sit down and fall asleep when a kirtan is going on or in a lecture, that's not a good sign. In other words, one must be able to absorb themselves in as they advance more and more. The capacity to absorb should be greater. So if you feel that your taste is increasing, give yourself a point. So like this, there are many, many measures by which you can understand whether this is a science. Srila Prabhupada never taught Krishna consciousness as a religion. Just do it, just believe it, just do the rituals, and at the end, cross your fingers, cross your toes, cross every other aspect of your body and hope it's done and it works and it's right. No. It's a science. You can see the results now. But there's one thing you need to do to be able to judge whether you're advancing or not. And you know what that is? You have to become introspective. You have to take some time out from the busyness of life and look deep in your heart and regularly ask yourself, where was I? Where am I? Where am I going? Recently I went back to my university. They organized a program there. So I went after 25 years. It was just a couple of weeks ago. So then I was sitting on this bench that I sat in when I was a student 25 years ago. And it was a wonderful moment because it was like I was sitting right there 25 years later. And I was thinking, who was I? Where was I? Where am I now? How in the world did I end up like this? And it was just a moment to be very reflective, seeing how your life is evolving. But nowadays people don't think about their life. Have you noticed? Because they're so busy. So you have to keep some space in your life so you can think about life. According to Ayurveda, half of your stomach should be filled with solids. 1/4 should be filled with water. And the other 1/4 should be filled with sweets. No, I'm joking. The other 1/4 should be filled with air. Because if there's no air, if there's no space, how you will digest? So if there's no space in your life, if there's no time to just sit down and think about life and reflect, you won't actually be able to digest life. So we have to become introspective and ask ourselves the difficult question, am I changing? Or have I just become ritualistic? Okay. Yes?
Personal question. From that bench,
yeah.
orange, to this orange dhoti, how that transition happened and why that happened and what made
Oh
you
my God, you're asking me my whole life story. When I was at university, I guess I was seeing two lives. I was introduced to Krishna consciousness around 15, 16. I was reading the Bhagavad Gita. And then I went to university. I was living out. I was living in London. I was living the life of a student. Independence, freedom, enjoyment. One night I'd be out at the nightclub. And then I'd come back from the nightclub and go to the temple for Mangalarti. It's like back to back, all-nighter. And after some time I realized, my God, this is just like an interesting comparison. People dancing in the nightclub and people dancing in Mangalarti. I saw it within a 4-hour period. I began to see this life is so superficial. This life is so, and people are trying so hard. Yehi samsparsha jaboga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavanta konteya nate ishu ramate Buddha. Krishna says, if you're a Buddha, if you're intelligent, then you won't try yehi samsparsha jaboga. You won't look for enjoyment from the things of this world. Dukkha yonaya evate, because it just brings you misery. Adyantavanta, every material enjoyment of this world has a adi, a beginning, and an anta, an end. Material enjoyment is doomed for failure. They say if you want to be happy, You need wealth, health, and time. When you're a kid, you have time and you have health. You don't have any money. Doomed. In your middle age, you have money, you have wealth, and you have your health. You ain't got any time. Doomed. And when you're old, you have lots of time now, and you have wealth, a bank balance full of money, but you don't have any health. Doomed. Whatever you do in this world, try it this way or that way, it will all keep hitting a brick wall. Doesn't matter what arrangements, what plans you make. So I was seeing all of this. And then after university, I thought, let me try something different. So then I had to have the difficult conversation with my parents, who had invested tens of thousands of pounds in my education. And I had to tell them, Mom, Dad, I need to find myself. What do you mean you need to find yourself? You're standing in front of me. No, I need to find who I am. What's the goal of life? My dad said, no, this religion, once you go into it, you go so deep that you never come out. I said, no, Dad, I'm a balanced person. And then I ended up like that. So it was an interesting time. It was an emotional time. I'm laughing about it now. It was an emotional time. There was a lot of arguments. There was a lot of emotions. There was, as you've all experienced, when you take up Krishna consciousness, then everyone's looking around at you like, are you okay? Everything all right? Not too much. Little bit is okay. Not too much. On a Sunday, maybe. On a Friday? What the hell are you guys doing here on a Friday? Sunday, maybe. It's Friday. But we have to go through that. If a path doesn't have any obstacles, most likely it doesn't lead anywhere significant. So there were obstacles on the path. So anyway, like this, I went on my journey. When I was 21, I became a monk. Spent time in India. Joined in London at the temple. 1 year became 2, which became 5, which became 10, which became 15, which is now over 20 years. Time goes on. But still, no love. Still looking for some love. I can sit in front of you as a Swami. Here's the Swami. And pretend to you that I've made it. But when I look in the mirror, I know still no love. Still searching. So the goal of life is not to be a monk. The goal of life is not to be a Swami. The goal of life is not to turn away from everything. But the goal of life is to give your heart to Krishna. We're not just trying to become free from attachment. We're trying to become slaves of love. So everyone has their own path. For some people, they'll live a life of renunciation and they'll turn away from it all. And others will live in this world. They'll have a family, they'll have a job. And that's wonderful. If you make it based around spirituality and Krishna, then there's no impediment. So we all just have to look deeply in our hearts and say, what is the best life that will help me to find what my heart is really looking for? And then we have to make decisions. So yeah, that's how I ended up here.